A lot of people are saying that Isagi's final goal in the Bastard Munchkin vs PXG game was plot. And it wasn't. There was lots of hints that was leading up to this, but as always, let me explain. In order for me to explain this goal as best as I can, I need you guys to understand the importance of the role that Barca played in the NEL. Because low-key, they had the most important role to play in the NEL. They was the sacrificial lamb so that the strikers on the other teams that were playing against Barca could try new things and hone their creativity more. Because if we also look at the theme behind Barca, it is a league where technique and creativity is desired. Their citizens won't be satisfied by just seeing goals. It is a place that gathers footballers who want to express creativity and playfulness. So if we jump back in time to that game, we see that Isagi is seeing Kaiser as the ideal version of himself. Because if we look at what Isagi is saying while he's watching Kaiser, he's saying he's embodying exactly my ideal movements. I do think there's a bit of a fuck up on that translation. I think it's probably supposed to say he's embodying my ideal movements exactly, but whatever. So we see this clone version of Isagi and we see Kaiser. So how does that tie into the goal that he's just scored? Well, after deeper inspection and a lot of comments pointing it out to me, Isagi is actually shedding the scales of Kaiser, not of his old self. But like I showed you in the panel just before that one, and in this panel, Isagi is seeing Kaiser as the ideal version of himself. So then if we jump forward in time back to the present chapter, him shedding this puzzle piece version of Kaiser is to show that he has now surpassed his old version of what he thought his ideal self would be, if that makes sense. But that was a bit complicated as a sentence to understand, so all you need to understand is that this puzzle piece version of Kaiser that's disappearing is Isagi basically telling the world that he has surpassed what he thought would be his ideal self. If we also look at the state of the field just before Ness crosses the ball, it's in a really similar state to when Ness did this shit back in the Barca game. We see Ness just on the edge of the box doing an illusion cross that goes all the way in, and Kaiser is running from the left side to the right side. So again, if we jump forward in time to when Ness crosses the ball comes down to Ness. It's a double spread, so it's a bit hard to see, but then Ness does the exact same cross that he did in the Barca game. Because look, he's on the edge of the box doing an overarching cross in, and which way does Isagi run from again? Because if we look at what Isagi's doing the exact same thing that Kaiser did back in that match. He's running from the left side to the right side. Also, for those of you that are confused, because I was a little confused when I first read this chapter because I just was so happy that Isagi scored. This is Isagi. Like, if you look down here, you see the puzzle pieces coming off him. But like I said, he is running from left to right like we see Kaiser doing in the bottom panel of this chapter. Because if you also look at Ness's cross, it's pretty much the exact same cross that he does in the PXG game. I also think it's really funny that it's called an illusion cross. And then Ness fell for the illusion that it was Kaiser and not Isagi, so low-key, that's peak. But for those people out there that still don't believe me when I say that Barca had the most important role to play in the NEL, if we also look at the other things that happened in that match, Isagi gained metavision, or at least a lower form of metavision, in this game. I also think that this is an early version of his omnivision because we get a highlight of his brain which we don't normally see even when he's using metavision. And the play that he builds just after using or gaining this little ability is him using Kunigame, because he goes into that flow and that's when he decides to pass. And the pass goes to Kunigame and then Kunigame scores it. So he was seeing metavision to see the future of the field and what everybody was doing. He uses omnivision to understand that Kunigame is the best option for him to use at the moment. Because don't forget, if he uses Kaiser, he's essentially just given up on trying to be a striker. So he's racking his brain to find a new puzzle piece, one that will help him on his path that he's trying to climb up. Because if we also want to get into the nitty-gritty details, if you look at this chapter, you can see Kaiser is actually running towards the left-hand side. That is also backed up by the fact that Kaiser is on the right-hand side when we see him from this flipped POV. I guess this also backs up that Rin really sold this game because Shido was doing his job. He was on Kaiser. Rin, being the person that wanted to destroy Isagi, left him fucking open. What a bum. This isn't going to be the panel that I'm talking about for the next couple of clips, so please keep that in mind. What I'm actually referring to is the panel where it's Hiyori and Karasu talking to each other. So I'm basically talking about this text here. I'm not talking about the panel because obviously the panel doesn't match what's happening. I'm also really sorry for cropping my guy's name out because I don't fully know if we're actually allowed to show his name or not. Just because when I was reading Jujutsu Kaisen leaks, there was a massive controversy about that one guy that was leaking all the chapters. And I'm pretty sure his account got banned at one point. I don't want this to happen to bro. So again, I am sorry for cropping your name out if we are allowed to show it, but I am just operating better safe than sorry. I will put his name in the comments if we are allowed to say it though. But anyway, Karasu says, Ness passed to Isagi, what's going on? And then Hiyori goes, no, the whole field, including me, couldn't predict the sudden mutation and awakening of the genius called Ness. Now, why am I trying to point this out? Well, to make it really simple, it's because Isagi did the exact same thing with Kunigami, only he was the midfielder in this situation, and Kunigami was the striker. The reason why I'm saying he did the exact same thing in the Bachi match is because when we jump all the way back to the start of the game, the ball ends up going to Kunigami. He then does a chest trap to forcibly keep the ball. He holds onto it for a little bit longer as he kind of dribbles through these two people. And then he shoots his mid-range power shot with his right leg, which gets saved by this goalkeeper. And I just want to say, this goalkeeper's the fucking GOAT. Because in the NEL, no other goalkeeper did anything apart from this one guy. And he's playing for Barca, which is even funnier. It's just so funny to me that the worst team in the NEL has the second best goalkeeper in the NEL. Like, that shit's hilarious. Because if we're being honest, this was low-key a really good save from the goalkeeper because it's a mid-ranged power shot, meaning that he's not that far away from the net. And I know that he's probably left-footed and his right foot is a little bit weaker, but again, this is a really, really powerful shot. And this guy's just like, But anyway, how this ties into the PXG game is that Kunigami realistically now is not seen as a useful puzzle piece. Because he forcibly kept the ball and then didn't even score off him keeping the ball, he's not seen as an actual useful tool at the moment. So it still follows the line of what Hiyori says in the PXG game, because nobody could have predicted the evolution of the genius called Kunigami. Because if we also look back to the foundation of this goal, he was shocked, he was shocked, he was shocked, everybody was shocked. What makes this goal even more peak is that he is doing the exact same thing, only he's on the other side. He is the striker now. Because I also forgot to mention, before Kunigami did score that final goal, he got blown past by Bachara as well. So he's not a useful defensive puzzle piece, and he wasn't a useful offensive puzzle piece. It was only after his evolution which nobody else apart from Isagi could predict. But to double back up that this still isn't a pot goal, before Ness even gets the fucking ball, Isagi already has his Omnivision active. So I assume what's running through Isagi's mind right now is he's figuring out that Ness is a genius, restrictive ego type, and that even when there is a million crosses to make on this panel, but when there is multiple options to make a cross to, he still always chooses Kaiser. Because when we look back at this chapter, again, he has all these options. He's got Grim, he's got Smegmagai, he's got Kunigami. And despite having all them options, he still passes to Kaiser. So all of that is running through Isagi's mind before Ness even touched the fucking ball. And now that Isagi has the final puzzle piece of being the fastest person to understand the state of the field, he then runs, like Kaiser would, to then trick Ness into passing to him. Because if we compare the foundations of each of the goals, it is low-key, word for word, bar for bar, the exact same as this. So was this goal plot? Absolutely fucking not. However, I do want to say it was a cell that Kunigami didn't score. Let me explain though, let me explain. The whole theme around the PXG game was reaching your 0 point. Isagi did it, Kaiser did it, Rin did it, Shido's already done it. I'm pretty sure that's not confirmed, but that's my little headcanon. So it would have made the most sense for Kunigami to reach his 0 point, then that be the explanation of what happened in the wild card. And then we can have Kiora help him score because Kiora still needs another assist, because I'm not going to lie, if Kiora somehow survives this off one assist, I'm going to lose my mind. And it still makes sense for Ness's evolution. If anything, it makes his evolution even better because he's actively chose a new emperor. Not only that, but it would have solidified Ness's evolution because he then would have scored from a different means. And it also would have kind of come full circle with his whole childhood of wanting to create that magic. Because when you look back to the goal that he idolized as a kid, it's this goal. And his eyes are on this guy. And somebody pointed out that this celebration looks really familiar to Rayo's and Nagi's celebration after the 5-stage volley. But I still want to give my flowers to the guy that low-key inspired me to go back and read all of this chapter, so go and check him out. His name's down there. Thanks for indulging my bullshit. Drink water. Look after yourself. Peace.